The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Seattle gym like it was trying to drown out the world outside. But inside, Jameson's world was already underwater. He stood there, drenched from the sprint across the parking lot. His towel clutched like a lifeline as the coach's voice cut through the empty space sharper than any blade. "You're late, Jameson." And late doesn't build muscle. It builds excuses. Jameson wiped the water from his face, his heart pounding not from the run, but from the weight of those words. Delivered by a man who looked carved from the same unyielding granite as the Cascade Mountains looming beyond the city. Coach Elias Hart. Elias to the few who dared familiarity, but always Coach to the rest, crossed his arms over his broad chest, his dark eyes narrowing under the buzzed edges of his fade haircut. At 35, Elias carried the kind of presence that made the air thicken, his olive skin glowing under the harsh fluorescence, a faint scar tracing his left eyebrow like a secret etched in stone. He was the kind of guy who turned heads in a coffee shop or a boardroom. But here, in the dim-lit sanctuary of Iron Pulse Gym, he was God. Jameson had signed up 3 weeks ago, on a whim born of desperation. His tech job at a Pike Place startup had vanished in a layoff wave, leaving him adrift in a one-bedroom apartment overlooking Elliott Bay, where the ferries sliced through the fog like ghosts. Nights blurred into mornings of job applications and microwave dinners, his reflection in the mirror mocking him with the softness that had crept into his once athletic frame. He was 28, gay in a city that prided itself on rainbows but still felt isolating, and the gym seemed like the fix, a place to sweat out the loneliness. But Elias had other ideas. "Drop and give me 20, Elias said, his voice low and steady. No room for negotiation. Jameson hit the mat without protest, his arms burning by the 5th push-up. The gym was emptying out, the after-work crowd filtering into the drizzle outside. But Elias lingered, clipboard in hand, timing him like a drill sergeant from some old war movie. When Jameson collapsed at 15, gasping, Elias crouched down, close enough that Jameson caught the scent of clean soap and cedar cologne. "You think pain's the enemy? It's your mirror. Face it, or it'll face you down." That first session stretched into overtime, Elias demonstrating form on the bench press with a grace that belied his size, 6'3" of coiled power, shoulders like the hull of a tugboat navigating Puget Sound. Jameson watched, mesmerized, as veins traced paths down Elias's forearms, his tank top straining against the flex of his pecs. It wasn't just attraction, it was the way Elias saw through him, peeling back layers Jameson had buried under hoodies and half-hearted smiles. By the time they wrapped, the clock read 9:30. The gym's lights dimmed to night mode, casting long shadows across the free weights. "You're staying after," Elias said. Not a question. Jameson nodded, too winded to argue, and followed him to the back office, a cramped space smelling of protein shakes and old motivational posters. Elias handed him a water bottle, their fingers brushing in a spark that Jameson chalked up to static from the mats. "Tell me why you're really here." "Not the brochure bullshit." Jameson hesitated, the truth bubbling up like foam on a latte. "I lost my job. Feel like I'm disappearing." The words hung heavy, vulnerability cracking his voice. Elias leaned back against the desk, his expression softening just a fraction, enough to reveal the man beneath the coach. "Disappearing's a choice, kid. But showing up? That's where the fight starts. They talked, or rather, Jameson spilled, until the rain tapered off. The city lights twinkling like distant stars through the window. Elias shared fragments, grew up in Tacoma, a rough-and-tumble port town south of Seattle, where his dad was a longshoreman who drank too much and loved too little. Football scholarship to UW. Then a knee injury that ended pro dreams. Pivoting to training because fixing bodies was the next best thing to fixing souls. Jameson absorbed it all. The coach's gravelly laugh when he admitted to binge-watching old Clint Eastwood westerns on rainy nights. It felt like connection, fragile and electric, the kind Jameson hadn't known since his last breakup 2 years back, a barista named Riley who ghosted him after Pride. By the end of week 2, the after-hour sessions had become ritual. Elias would bark orders during the day, squats that left Jameson's quads screaming, deadlifts that tested his grip like fate testing his resolve, but evenings were different. Softer. Elias would spot him on the pull-up bar, his hand steady on Jameson's waist, breath warm against his neck. Breathe through it, Elias would murmur, and Jameson would wonder if he meant the lift or something deeper. Seattle's autumn deepened, leaves turning gold along the Burt Gilman Trail that Jameson jogged on off days. The Space Needle piercing the low clouds like a needle threading his scattered thoughts. He started noticing details, the way Elias's laugh lines crinkled when he teased him about his form. The faded tattoo on his ribcage, a compass rose, inked during a backpacking trip through the Olympics. Attraction simmered, unspoken, in the glances that lingered too long in the mirror. The accidental touches that sent heat pooling low in Jameson's gut. One Thursday, after a grueling circuit of burpees and battle ropes that left Jameson slick with sweat, Elias tossed him a towel and said, "Lock up when you're done." "I got a thing." Jameson watched him go, the door clicking shut behind that broad back, and felt a pang sharper than any muscle ache. What was the thing? A date? Elias wore no ring. But Seattle was full of possibilities, apps, bars, the endless churn of urban solitude. That night, alone in his apartment, Jameson scrolled Grindr out of habit, then deleted the app again. Elias's face kept surfacing in his mind, those dark eyes that held storms and sunrises. He texted a friend from the old job, Theo, about the coach. He's intense. Like, makes you want to be better. Theo replied with emojis Jameson ignored. Too raw to laugh. Week 3 brought change. Elias arrived late one session, shadows under his eyes. His usual crisp polo rumpled. Rough night, he grunted, diving into programming Jameson's cardio without preamble. They pushed harder, hill sprints on the treadmill mimicking the inclines of Capitol Hill, where Jameson had once dreamed of climbing corporate ladders. Midway, Elias paused the machine, his hand on the emergency stop like a lifeline. You ever feel like you're running from yourself? Jameson met his gaze in the mirror, sweat dripping down his temple. Every damn day. The admission unlocked something, Elias nodded, stepping closer, their reflections merging like overlapping frames in a film reel. Then stop running. Face the hill head-on. After hours again, they sat on the yoga mats, backs against the mirrored wall, sharing a protein bar like it was contraband. Elias opened up more about his ex, an architect named Landon who'd left for San Francisco 2 years prior, chasing Silicon Valley dreams and leaving Elias with a hollow ache. Thought I could train it out of me, Elias said, voice rough. Turns out, hearts don't bulk up like biceps. Jameson swallowed. His own history spilling. The conservative upbringing in Spokane. Coming out at 18 to parents who loved him but never quite understood. The parade of hookups that never stuck. I want more than that. Someone who sees the mess and stays. Their knees touched. Accidental at first. Then not. The air hummed. Charged like the storm brewing over the sound. Elias pulled back first, standing abruptly. Get some rest. We've got legs tomorrow. But as Jameson gathered his bag, he caught the coach's eyes lingering. A question unspoken in the dim light. The pull was magnetic now. Sessions laced with subtext. Elias's corrections grew tactile, fingers adjusting Jameson's stance on the squat rack, palms pressing into his lower back during planks. Each contact a spark and dry tinder. Jameson dreamed of him that weekend, waking tangled in sheets to the patter of rain on his fire escape, hands slipping under the waistband of his boxers with Elias's name on his lips. Monday brought confrontation, subtle as Seattle fog. During cool-down stretches, Elias knelt beside him, guiding his hamstring pull with a grip that bordered on caress. "You're holding tension here," he said, thumb circling the knot behind Jameson's knee. Heat flushed up Jameson's thighs, and he blurted, "Is this just training?" Or Elias froze, hand withdrawing like burnt. "What do you think it is?" His tone was even, but his eyes, those storm-dark eyes, betrayed the turmoil. Jameson pushed, heart hammering. "Feels like more. To me. Anyway." Silence stretched, broken only by the hum of the AC. Then Elias sighed, running a hand over his buzzed head. "Can't mix business with this." Not smart, but he didn't move away. And when their session ended, he walked Jameson to the door, the rain a silver curtain beyond. "Text me if you need to talk." Off the clock, Jameson's phone buzzed that night with a meme, Elias, poking fun at a viral gym fail. Replies flowed into midnight confessions, barriers crumbling like old brick in the International District. By Friday, they met outside the gym, at a dive bar on First Avenue where the jukebox played Springsteen and the whiskey burned smooth. Elias in jeans and a Henley that hugged his frame. Jameson in his best button-down, nervous as a first date, which it was. They talked for hours, the bar emptying around them, Seattle's nightlife pulsing faintly through the windows. Elias's laugh came easier with liquor. Stories of childhood fishing trips on the Duwamish. The quiet pride in training at-risk kids from the Central District. Jameson shared his writing hobby, short stories scribbled in notebooks, dreams of publishing something real. "You're a poet trapped in a coder's body," Elias teased, his foot nudging Jameson's under the table. The walk to Jameson's apartment was a blur of mist and murmured words, hands brushing until Elias cupped the back of his neck at the door, pulling him into a kiss that tasted of bourbon and possibility. Slow, exploratory, Elias's lips firm against his, stubble rasping like sandpaper on silk. Jameson's back hit the door, keys forgotten, world narrowing to the press of bodies. The coach's growl low in his throat. Inside, clothes shed like inhibitions, tank tops pooling on the floor, jeans kicked aside. Elias was reverent, mapping Jameson's skin with calloused hands, kisses trailing fire down his collarbone, across the faint scars of old insecurities. "Beautiful," Elias whispered, voice wrecked, as he took Jameson apart on the rumpled bed, bodies sinking like waves crashing on Alki Beach. It was urgent, tender, a release of weeks of tension, ending in gasps and tangled limbs. Elias's weight a grounding force as they caught breath. Morning light filtered through blinds, coffee brewing in the kitchenette. Elias, shirtless and tousled, flipped pancakes with a grin that lit the room brighter than the sun struggling over the Olympics. "Domestic looks good on you," Jameson said, stealing a kiss that lingered sweet with maple. But reality intruded mid-bite. Elias's phone vibrated, a text from his sister in Tacoma about family dinner. He silenced it, but the shadow crossed his face. "Everything okay?" Jameson asked. Elias nodded too quickly. "Yeah. Just stuff." He let slide, diving back into the weekend, hikes along Discovery Park, where salt air mingled with pine, hands linked on winding paths. Elias opened up about his fear of commitment. The scar from Landon, not just emotional, but literal, a faded mark on his heart from a night of shattered glass and shouted regrets. Jameson listened, offering his own fractures, the way love had always felt like a sprint he couldn't finish. By Sunday night, as Elias dressed to leave, the air thickened again. It's real, right?" Jameson asked, vulnerability raw. Elias pulled him close, foreheads touching. "Real as the rain out there. We'll figure it out." The door closed softly, but Jameson lay awake, the echo of that promise chasing sleep. The weeks blurred into a rhythm as steady as the ferry horns echoing across the sound. Elias and Jameson carving out stolen moments amid the grind of Seattle life. Mornings at Iron Pulse were professional, Elias barking cues during group classes, Jameson blending into the pack of tech bros and baristas sweating out their vices. But the after hours? Those were theirs. The gym transforming into a private confessional where weights clanged like punctuation to whispered vulnerabilities. One Tuesday, post-leg day that left Jameson wobbling like a newborn foal. They collapsed onto the foam rollers, breaths sinking into quiet. Elias traced idle patterns on Jameson's calf, his touch absent-minded yet electric. "Ever think about getting out of this city?" he asked, voice low. "Somewhere quieter, like the San Juans. Ferries to islands where no one's watching." Jameson turned his head, hazel eyes meeting Elias's dark ones in the mirror's reflection. "With you?" "Yeah. All the time." The admission hung, heavy with implication, and Elias's fingers stilled, then resumed with purpose, sliding higher until Jameson shivered. They didn't cross the line there, not with the cleaning crew due any minute, but the promise simmered, leading to a hasty dinner at a Capitol Hill bistro, where twinkle lights strung above the patio mimicked stars hidden by cloud cover. Over salmon and Sauvignon Blanc, Elias shared more scars, the coming out at 22, disowned briefly by his father until a fishing trip thawed the ice, lines cast into the Nisqually River pulling in more than trout. He said, "Son, life's too short for hiding reels." Meant the world. Jameson squeezed his hand under the table, sharing his own thaw. A college roommate in Pullman who became a first love, ended in tears but birthing courage. The night ended at Elias's place in Ballard, a converted warehouse loft with exposed beams and a view of the locks where salmon leaped against the current. Making love there felt different, slower, like unwrapping a gift savored over time. Elias was attentive, learning the map of Jameson's body with lips and tongue, drawing out moans that echoed off brick walls. Jameson arched under him, nails digging into broad shoulders. The coaches name a chant as release crashed like waves on the locks below. Afterward, tangled in sheets scented with sea salt and sweat, Elias held him close. Heartbeat a steady drum against Jameson's ear. "You're under my skin, Jay," he murmured. Deeper than ink. Jameson woke to the aroma of espresso from Elias's fancy machine, a far cry from his drip brew desperation. They lingered over breakfast, avocado toast piled with heirloom tomatoes from the Ballard Market, talking futures hazy as morning fog. Job hunting had yielded interviews for Jameson, remote gigs that could flex around sessions. Maybe even time for those stories gathering dust in his drawer. Elias mentioned expanding the gym, private coaching for LGBTQ youth, turning pain into power. "You'd be good at it," Jameson said. Teaching more than form. The idol cracked subtly, like a hairline fracture in granite. Midweek, during a deadlift set, Elias's phone buzzed incessantly from his locker. He silenced it twice, jaw tight, before excusing himself to the office. Jameson caught snippets, low voice, tense, something about "not now" and "it's complicated." Curiosity gnawed, but trust held it at bay. Elias returned with a forced smile, spotting the next rep like nothing fractured. That Friday, they escaped to the Museum of Pop Culture, wandering exhibits of grunge guitars and sci-fi props, hands brushing in crowded halls. Jimi Hendrix's silhouette loomed, a reminder of Seattle's brooding soul, and Elias pulled Jameson into a shadowed corner, kissing him fierce and fleeting, stubble scraping in the best way. "Needed that," he breathed. Dinner followed at a Fremont faux spot, steam rising like secrets between them, chopsticks clinking to the rhythm of shared laughter. But back at Jameson's, as they tumbled into bed, Elias's phone lit up again, unknown number. Voicemail left. He checked it later. In the bathroom, light spilling gold across the floor. Expression shuddered. Jameson pretended sleep, heart twisting, but morning brought normalcy, lazy blowjobs under the covers. Elias's mouth a revelation of heat and skill, leaving Jameson boneless and beaming. The fracture widened over coffee runs to Victrola, where baristas knew their orders, black for Elias, oat milk latte for Jameson. Theo cornered him one day at the old office haunt, a queen in pub with dartboards scarred like old wounds. "This coach sounds serious. But slow down. Man, guys like that, built like tanks, they carry baggage heavier than yours." Jameson brushed it off, but doubts seeded. Elias canceled a weekend hike citing family stuff, vague as the marine layer rolling in. Text flowed, "Miss you. Can't wait," but the after hours at the gym felt charged differently. Elias pushing harder, like exorcising ghosts. During one session, spotting a heavy bench, his grip lingered on Jameson's bar, eyes distant. "You good?" Jameson ass post set, wiping chalk from his palms. Elias exhaled, dropping to the bench beside him. "Just past catching up." X reached out. "Wants closure or some shit." The word X landed like a dropped plate, shards of jealousy sharp. Landon, the architect, the one who'd carved that hollow. Jameson nodded, forcing casual. "Talk it out. You deserve peace." But peace evaded. That night, Elias showed up at Jameson's door unannounced, rain-slicked and stormy-eyed. pulling him into a kiss that bruised with desperation. They fucked against the wall, clothes half on, Elias's hands rough and claiming, thrust deep and punishing as if staking territory. Jameson gasped into his neck, legs wrapped tight, the release of catharsis that left them sliding to the floor in a heap. "Don't let go," Elias whispered. But in the afterglow, his phone buzzed once more, Landon's name flashing like a warning flare. Jameson saw it, pretended not to. Trust frayed at the edges. But love, raw and reckless, stitched it back. They planned to get away. A cabin rental in the Snoqualmie Valley, where evergreens whispered secrets and rivers carved canyons of forgiveness. Packing for it, Jameson found an old photo in Elias's gym bag, him and Landon at a pride march. Arms slung easy, smiles unscarred. He tucked it away, heart aching with the weight of what came before. The drive east was a ribbon of highway unfurling through mist-shrouded passes. Radio crooning Norah Jones as Elias's hand rested on Jameson's thigh. "This is what normal feels like," Elias said, squeezing. The cabin was rustic charm, log walls, stone fireplace, a deck overlooking the South Fork where elk grazed at dawn. They arrived to a chill, building a fire that crackled like applause, bodies warming against it with wine and wandering hands. Nights were fever dreams, Elias pinning him to the rug, tongue tracing constellations on his skin, Jameson riding him slow by firelight, eyes locked in silent vows. Days blurred into hikes along mossy trails, picnics of cheese and charcuterie where Elias fed him grapes, laughing when juice stained lips. "Messy suits you," he teased, licking it clean with a kiss that deepened into more. But on the second night, as rain drummed the tin roof, Elias's phone rang, insistent, shattering the haze. He stepped onto the porch, voice muffled by weather. But Jameson caught fragments. "Can't do this again. Hurts too much. Stay away." The door creaked open. Elias drenched inside and out, collapsing beside him. "Landon's in town. Showed up at the gym today." Jameson's stomach dropped. "What did he want?" "Us. Back." Elias's voice cracked, hands trembling as he poured more wine. "Says he made a mistake. But I told him no." Relief flooded Jameson, but laced with pity, the raw edge of Elias's pain slicing them both. They made love then, gentle and healing, Elias's touches apologetic, whispers of "you're mine now" against Jameson's temple. The drive home Sunday was quieter, clouds lifting to reveal blue skies mocking the undercurrent. Back in the city, routine resumed, but the ghost lingered. Elias threw himself into work. Sessions brutal, after hours clipped with exhaustion. Jameson landed a freelance gig, content for a Bellevue startup, buoying him, but nights alone amplified doubts. Theo's words echoing, baggage heavier. Climax brewed mid-month. At a gym holiday party in the lounge, eggnog flowing, string lights twinkling like false stars. Elias introduced Jameson casually, "my star client," but the arm around his waist said more. Laughter rang, but then Landon appeared, uninvited, tall and polished in a sweater that screamed money, eyes locking on Elias with hunger. The air sucked out. Jameson watched from across the room as they talked, Landon's hand on Elias's arm. Words urgent. Elias pulled away, but the damage etched lines on his face. Jameson approached, heart pounding, extending a hand. Jameson, friend of Elias's. Landon's smile was a blade. The new one. Cute. Elias tensed, excusing them to the alley out back, where dumpsters loomed like judgments under sodium lights. He's gone. I handled it, but handling cracked open floods. Elias confessed it all, Landon's texts. The late night calls Jameson slept through. The temptation that whispered in weak moments. I didn't act on it, but I thought about it. God, gee, I'm scared of this, of us, because it feels too good to last. Betrayal stung, not in action, but in the hidden war. The alone Elias fought while Jameson dreamed. You could have told me, Jameson said, voice breaking. Instead of letting it fester. I know. I'm sorry, Elias reached. But Jameson stepped back. Rain started to spit. Need space. To think. He walked home through the downpour. Blocks blurring. Chest height with sobs held in. The apartment felt cavernous. Bed cold without Elias's weight. Texts went unanswered that night. Elias respecting the boundary even as it bled them. Days stretched. Gym avoidance turning to solitary runs along the waterfront, where gulls cried mockery. Jameson poured pain into writing, a story of a runner chasing shadows, submitted to a lit mag on impulse. Elias's messages piled. Miss you. Talk to me. I fucked up. Theo dragged him to a drag brunch in Capitol Hill. Mimosas and shade lifting spirits fractionally. But the hollow persisted. 2 weeks in, crisis peaked. Jameson woke to pounding, Elias at the door. Soaked and shattered. Eyes red-rimmed. Can't do this without you. Landon's gone for good. But I'm the one breaking. He collapsed inside. Story spilling. The confrontation. Landon's pleas turning ugly. Accusations of Elias settling. But you're not settling. You're everything. Jameson listened. Anger melting into ache. Pulling Elias to the couch. They cried together. Ugly. Cathartic, bodies folding like accordions. We heal this, Jameson said finally. Together. No more shadows. Forgiveness wasn't linear. But it started there, in tentative touches. Rebuilding trust brick by brick. Rebuilding was a marathon, not a sprint. And Seattle's winter gripped the city like a reluctant lover. Gray skies pressing low as if to mirror the slow thaw between them. Jameson returned to the gym tentatively. First session awkward, Elias's cues clipped. Eyes averted during form checks. The space between them vast as the gap in communication that had nearly swallowed them whole. But after hours beckoned, a truce unspoken, and one night, as snow dusted the streets for the first time in years, they lingered by the heavy bag, gloves thudding rhythmically. Hit it like you mean it, Elias said, holding the bag steady, his stance wide and grounding. Jameson swung, leather smacking with pin-up fury, each punch a release of the betrayal's echo. Sweat beaded, breaths fogging the air, until Elias stepped in, hands on his hips to adjust stance. Loosen here. Let the power flow. The touch lingered, familiar heat sparking, and Jameson turned, gloves off, pulling Elias into a kiss that tasted of salt and second chances. It was raw, unpolished, teeth clashing, hands fisting shirts, but it anchored them. They didn't go further that night. Boundaries sacred in repair. But walks home hand in hand through Queen Anne's hilly streets became routine. hot cocoa from a corner cart steaming between gloved fingers. Elias talked more openly now. Therapy sessions with a counselor in Belltown unpacking the land and baggage. Vulnerabilities laid bare like equipment after a deep clean. Jameson leaned in too, sharing the lit mag rejection that stung like salt in wounds. But also the encouragement note scrawled at bottom, "Keep chasing." Elias framed it on his fridge. A talisman, and surprised Jameson with a leather-bound journal one evening. Pages crisp as new snow. For the stories in your head. And the ones in your heart. Winter deepened. Holidays looming like freight trains. Jameson's family in Spokane invited him east, but the thought of turkey and tension soured his stomach. Conversations skirting his life. Questions about that special someone laced with hope for the heteronormative. Elias sensed it, offering his own chaos, sister's wedding in Tacoma. A sprawling Italian-American affair where aunts pinched cheeks and uncles grilled steaks. Come with me. Meet the madness. Jameson hesitated, the step monumental, but nodded. Yeah. Let's do it. The drive south was a cassette of classic rock, Springsteen belting about highways under fire, Elias's hand on his knee, a steady hum. Tacoma welcomed with salt air and ship horns. The Hart family home a craftsman crammed with marinara pots and photo walls of gap-toothed kids. The wedding was a whirlwind. Rehearsal dinner at a harborside tavern, where Elias's sister Maria hugged Jameson fierce, whispering, "He smiles different with you." Ceremony under evergreens strung with lights. Vows exchanged with tears and laughter. Elias's hand finding Jameson's in the pew, thumb stroking reassurance. Reception danced long into night. Polka with uncles who smelled of pipe tobacco. Slow turns with Elias under a tent where stars peeked through clouds. But cracks spiderwebbed even in joy. An uncle, 3 whiskeys deep, cornered Elias by the bar. "That your roommate? When you settling down proper?" Elias stiffened, replying cool. "Jameson's family." End of. Jameson overheard. Heart swelling, then sinking at the half-truth born of habit. Later, in a borrowed guest room, he voiced it. Bodies entwined post-love. Elias's cock still warm inside him. "I want to be out. With you. All the way." Elias kissed his forehead. Voice thick. "Working on it. Promise." Sleep came fitful. Dreams of closets creaking open to judgmental eyes. New Year's dawned crisp. Resolutions whispered over black-eyed peas at Maria's. Back in Seattle, they rang in the ear on a rooftop in Belltown. Fireworks blooming over the bay like defiant flowers. Elias pulled a small box from his pocket, not a ring, but a key, etched with a tiny compass. To the loft. "Your space, too." Jameson's yes was a sob, sealing it with a kiss amid cheers. The city below a canvas of light and shadow. Spring teased early. Cherry blossoms unfurling along University Avenue, mirroring the bloom in their bond. Jameson's freelance stabilized. Stories landing in queer-lit journals. Elias beaming at readings in cozy Capitol Hill cafes. They volunteered together at the gym's youth program, coaching teens from the Rainier Valley, kids with stories echoing their own, fists wrapped in gloves against the world's jabs. One boy, shy with a mohawk, confided in Jameson post-session. "Coach Hart says you're proof, love the muscle. Gotta train it daily." The words stuck. A mantra as summer approached. Plans for a road trip south along the Oregon coast solidifying, craggy beaches, clam chowder in Astoria, Nights in lighthouses where waves roared approval. But beneath the idol, Elias's shadow stirred. Therapy unearthed deeper roots. Father's death 6 months prior. Unspoken grief manifesting as control. The strictness a shield against loss. Landon leaving? Echoed Dad walking out after chemo talks. Can't lose again. Jameson held him through nightmares. Body a bulwark. Making love with a tenderness that bordered worship, fingers interlacing. Gazes held as Elias came undone. Vulnerability a gift. You're safe, Jameson murmured, tracing the compass tattoo. Here, yet external storms brewed. At a gym expansion meeting with investors, suits from downtown eyeing the LGBTQ angle like a trendy add-on, Elias pushed back. Voice steel. This isn't a checkbox. It's lives. Jameson attended as moral support. Pride swelling. But post-meeting, a backer pulled Elias aside. Murmurs of image and discretion. Elias brushed it off. But Jameson saw the flinch. The old armor clicking into place. Tension peaked mid-May. During a rare argument in the loft, Elias snapping over forgotten laundry, Jameson retorting about emotional walls. Words escalated. Hurts hurled like dumbbells. You shut down when it counts. I'm trying. But you're pushing too fast. Silence fell heavy. Jameson storming to the balcony. City lights blurring through tears. Elias followed, arms encircling from behind. Scared you'll see the broken parts and bolt. Jameson turned, hands framing Elias's face. Broken's where the beauty hides. We're both patch quilts. Let's keep stitching. The makeup was slow burn, kisses trailing down spines. Bodies rediscovering rhythms. Forgiveness tasted in skin. June brought pride. Seattle streets, a riot of color and chant. Rainbows arcing over Pride Fest stages. They marched hand in hand. Elias's grip iron through the crowds. Signs proclaiming love lifts all. At the after-party in a soda warehouse. Bass thumping like heartbeats. They danced sweaty and free. Elias's lips on his neck amid strobe lights. Out and proud, he yelled over the din, and Jameson believed it. The city's pulse syncing with theirs. But July's heat wave cracked the facade. Landon resurfaced, not in person, but via email to the gym, proposing a collaborative project for queer fitness initiatives. CCING mutual contacts. Elias deleted it unread. But ripples spread, whispers in the youth group. A teen asking Jameson if Coach's ex is back to stir shit. Paranoia festered. Elias withdrawing into late nights at the gym. Sessions solo to clear headspace. Jameson confronted him over takeout pad thai on the deck. Fairies dotting the dark water like fireflies. Talk to me. This silence is killing us. Elias's confession poured. Temptation not in rekindling, but in the ease of old patterns. The fear that Jameson, younger, freer, deserved unscarred love. I'm 40 chasing 30. What if I drag you down? Bullshit, Jameson fired. Hurt Lansing. We're climbing together. Or not at all. The fight dissolved into tears. Elias breaking, sobs racking that unbreakable frame. Jameson rocking him like a child. Promises renewed in the humid night. Healing deepened. Therapy joined now. Sessions in a waterfront office where gulls wheeled outside windows. They learned tools, check-ins over morning runs. I feel statements amid cable crossovers. August's road trip materialized. Highway 101 a vein of asphalt south. windows down to salt wind. Stops at Cannon Beach yielded haystack rocks kissed by tide. Bonfires where marshmallows charred sweet. Bodies oiled and tangled under stars. In a Yaquina Head motel, waves crashing symphony. Elias proposed vulnerability's pinnacle, coming out fully to his mother. A call placed on speaker. Jameson's hand in his. "Ma, this is Jameson. My partner." Her pause stretched eternal. Then warmth. "About time you found joy." Mijo. Tears flowed free. Celebration in slow thrusts. Elias's eyes locked on his. Love a lighthouse beam. Fall crept in golden. Leaves carpeting the trail to their favorite overlook, where they picnicked with apple cider and introspection. Jameson's first book deal landed, a collection of queer Pacific Northwest tales, Elias toasting with champagne smuggled in a Nalgene. Knew you had it in you, yet autumn winds carried omens. Gym expansion stalled, investors balking at risky branding, code for Elias's visibility. He doubled down, hosting free clinics in the Central District, Jameson assisting, their partnership a beacon. One evening, post-clinic, a kid lingered, 16, bruised from home, eyes wide with hope. "You too." "Real." Elias knelt, voice steady. "Real as this city." "Hold on." Strength comes. The moment crystallized purpose. But private storms raged. Elias's grief resurfaced. Anniversary of his father's passing, a black hole-sucking light. Jameson found him at the locks at dawn, feeding fish to salmon. Shoulders slumped. Missed the bastard. Even the hard parts. They sat on the seawall, legs dangling. Jameson sharing his own ghosts, mother's quiet disapproval at Thanksgiving calls. We carry them. But not alone. November rain lashed relentless, mirroring turmoil. A leaked email chain surfaced, Landon twisting narratives, painting Elias as unstable, scaring off a key donor. Rage boiled. Elias wanted confrontation. Jameson restraint. Rise above. Show them love's the real power. They channeled it into action, a fundraiser gala at the gym, drag queens emceeing, proceeds to youth shelters. Jameson emceed, stories weaving humor and heart. Elias's pride palpable across the room. Success surged, donations pouring. Media buzzing, a stranger hailing Seattle's power couple of fitness. But December's chill brought the deepest cut. At a holiday market in Fremont, trolls and twinkling trolls under siege by shoppers. Elias's phone rang. Hospital. His mother down with pneumonia. Tacoma calling him home. Jameson insisted on driving. The interstate a blur of taillights and worry. Hospital waits were purgatory. Maria pacing. Elias's hand vice-tight in Jameson's. She rallied. Weak smiles and Italian curses. But the scare unearthed Elias's deepest fear, impermanence. Love's fragility in a world of sudden losses. Back in Seattle, post-discharge, he spiraled, cancellations, isolation, the strict coach crumbling to vulnerability's edge. What if I lose you too? To this mess I am. Jameson refused the fracture. Staging an intervention of sorts, a weekend unplug at a Vashon Island cabin. Ferries crossing to quiet. No phones, just fire pits and forest baths. Bodies and souls stripped bare. You're not a mess, Jameson said one night. Stars wheeling overhead. Elias's head in his lap. You're my anchor. Storms and all. Love-making that night was reclamation, Elias topping with a gentleness that wrecked. Then switching. Jameson filling him slow. Eyes never leaving. Vows gasped in his skin. Dawn brought clarity. Elias vowing therapy intensification. Openness as armor. New Year circled back. Resolutions refined. Weekly date nights. No secrets packs. Spring 2026 bloomed hopeful. Blossoms defiant against late frosts. Their love a garden tended fierce. Yet hope's bloom masked thorns sharpening beneath. Summer's heat returned sweltering. Seattle's humidity turning the gym into a sauna of sweat and simmering doubts. The expansion pushed forward. New space in Pioneer Square christened with a ribbon cutting. Elias's speech, raw. Rallying, drawing cheers from a crowd of supporters. Jameson beaming from the front row. Heart full. But backstage, whispers slithered, competitors eyeing the spotlight. Landon rumored to be consulting for a rival chain. His influence a shadow puppet. Elias brushed it off publicly, but privately, paranoia gnawed. Late nights poring over spreadsheets. Canceling dinners with mutters of just one more email. Jameson felt the drift. Intimacy cooling to quickies snatched in locker rooms. Passion's firebanked to embers. "We're drifting," he said one evening over ramen at a hole in the wall in the U District. Steam curling like unanswered questions. Elias sighed, chopsticks pausing. Pressure's mounting. Investors want results. Kids need the program, can't drop balls. Jameson reached across, fingers lacing. "Don't drop us." The plea landed, sparking a weekend reset, kayaking on Lake Union, paddles dipping in sync, laughter echoing off houseboats as they raced giggling couples. Evening found them on the deck of a rented slip. Grilling salmon caught that morning. Elias's arms around him from behind, chin on shoulder. "You're right. Balance. Or we sink." Fall's palette deepened. Amber and crimson carpeting Gasworks Park where they wandered. Kites soaring like freed worries. Jameson's book launch loomed, a modest reading at Elliott Bay Book Company. Nerves jangling like loose change. Elias hyped him relentlessly. Mock interviews over breakfast that dissolved into table sex. Coffee spilling forgotten. The night arrived electric. Shelves groaning under tomes. Friends Theo and Maria in attendance. Elias's eyes front row. Pride a tangible force. Jameson read from his piece on hidden loves in rainy cities. Voice steadying on Elias's gaze. Applause thundering like release. Signing followed. Line snaking. But the pinnacle was Elias's gift post-event, a first edition of Kerouac. Inscribed to my road warrior, keep writing our story. They celebrated in a back alley speakeasy. Jazz humming low. Bodies pressed close in a booth. Kisses tasting of gin and gratitude. Winter whispered warnings. However, holiday season amplified stresses. Elias's family gatherings tense with post-wedding gossip. Aunt's probing, "When's your turn?" Jameson fielded it with humor. But Elias withdrew. The old armor clanking. New Year's resolution. Couples retreat in the Cascades. Snowshoeing through white silence. Cabin nights of mulled wine and marathon fucks. Elias's body a furnace against the cold. Spring 2027 green tentative. But cracks widened. The gym's youth program boomed. Grants flowing. But scandals brewed. A teen's allegation of favoritism. Whispers of Elias's personal life influencing selections. Investigation loomed. Internal. But media sniffed. A stranger article hinting at power dynamics. Elias raged in the loft, pacing like a caged wolf. It's bullshit. I'm helping these kids. Jameson mediated. Calls to lawyers. But trust eroded, Elias accusing him of naivety. Jameson snapping back about transparency. You shut me out again. The fight exploded. Words weapons. Maybe Landon's right. You're too soft for this world. Elias's flinch was visceral. Regret instant. But damage done. Jameson left for Theo's couch. Nights scrolling memories. Heart a bruise. Reconciliation came halting. Coffee at a neutral cafe in Fremont. Trolls judging silently. Apologies flowed. Elias admitting fear's grip. Success scares me. Like it'll steal you. Jameson forgave. But boundaries set. Weekly check-ins mandatory. No solo crises. Summer sizzled with redemption arcs. They mentored the accused teen, clearing his name through sessions focused on accountability. The program emerging stronger. A model lauded in Seattle Weekly. Pride that year was triumphant, float-sponsored. Elias and Jameson co-MCS. Rain holding off for once as crowds roared. Backstage hookup in a porta-potty turned limo ride. Laughter hysterical. Bodies slick with confetti and sweat. But autumn's harvest reaped betrayal's bitter fruit. Landon struck overtly, poaching a key coach, then leaking doctored emails painting Elias as aggressive. Predatory. The fallout was swift, sponsors fleeing, youth parents pulling kids, media circus descending. Elias crumbled. Loft a war zone of takeout boxes and whiskey bottles. Jameson anchoring through storms. Calls to PR firms. Support groups for queer business owners. Crisis peaked in October. Board meeting dooming. Suspension pending review. Elias, hollow-eyed, drove to the locks alone. Jameson trailing. End of the line, he said. Voice ash. Lost it all. Jameson pulled him close. Rain mingling with tears. Not me. Not us. We'll rebuild. The suspension hit like a gut punch. Jim whispers venomous. Jameson fielding hate mail at readings. He poured it into writing, a novella on love's siege, dedicated to Elias. But strain showed, arguments over money. Elias's drinking edging problematic. Intimacy sparse as winter sun. November's gray deep in despair. Elias spiraled, rejecting therapy. Nights out at dive bars Jameson discovered via worried text from Maria. Confrontation brewed at Homecoming, a bar in Pioneer Square. Elias 3 sheets. Landon across the room. Smirking. Jameson arrived to chaos. Raised voices. Elias shoving. Security intervening. In the aftermath, loft silent as a tomb. Elias confessed the meat. He baited me. Wanted this, me broken. Betrayal layered. Not just Landon's, but Elias's weakness. The secret drinks. The isolation chosen over them. I can't trust you not to self-destruct, Jameson said. Voice steel through tears. And I can't watch. He left again. This time to a sublet in Capitol Hill. Boxes packed with half their life. Days blurred into work, book tour mini. Stories resonating with raw edges. Nights alone. Grinder temptation resisted, but loneliness a constant companion. Elias's voicemails pleaded, come back. I'll fix it. Healing's path forked solitary. Jameson dove into support circles. Queer writers group in U District where pens bled catharsis. Theo dragged him hiking. Rayner's snowcaps perspective granting. Elias, suspended limbo. Sought rehab voluntary. Tacoma-based. Maria's tough love. Letters arrived. Handwritten. Elias's scrawl vulnerable. Rock bottom taught me. Love isn't possession. It's choice. I choose better for me. For us if you'll have it. Thanksgiving alone in a cafe. Turkey sandwich mocking. Jameson waited. Forgiveness? Possible. Forgetting? Myth. But growth, his and Elias's, beckoned. December dawned decisive. Jameson visited Tacoma. Facility stark, but Elias transformed. Clearer eyes. Resolve etched deeper than scars. They walked grounds. Evergreens dusted frost. Talking roots, Elias's commitment to sobriety. Plans for a smaller gym focused pure on community. No empires. Just impact. Jameson shared his evolution. Boundaries firmer. Riding bolder. Heart scarred but open. I love you. But changed. The kiss at parting was chaste. Promise laden. No rush. Back in Seattle. Space breathed. Separate apartments. Coffee, meets, evolving to dinners. Trust rebuilt plank by plank. Spring saw Elias cleared. Program relaunched leaner. Stronger. Jameson guest writing curriculum on resilience. Summer healed fully. Road trip redux to the San Juans. Ferry to Orcas. Bikes on trails. Lighthouse nights where waves sang absolution. In a meadow under Eagle's watch. Elias knelt, not proposal. But pledge, I vowed daily work. On us. Jameson pulled him up. Yes, an embrace. Love-making under canopy. Earth yielding as their bodies. Fall 2027 grounded them. Routines rooted, joint therapy, gym sessions laced with laughter. Jameson's second book birthing. Winter's solstice party at the loft. Now theirs again, filled with friends. Toast to survival. Yet humanity's depth lay in imperfection. Arguments flared. Doubts whispered. But choices affirmed, talk over silence. Touch over retreat. Their story, woven through Seattle's weave of rain and resolve, proved love's true form, not flawless fairy tale, but gritty grace, lifting through every lift. No, the arc demanded deeper trial. For what was healing without the abyss's echo? By 2028's cusp, stability tempted complacency. Elias's sobriety a year strong. Jim thriving as a haven. Jameson's literary star rising with festival invites to Lit Crawl. They vacationed in Portland. Food carts and bridges bonding. But return brought undercurrents. Elias's restlessness. Whispers of expansion anew. Jameson sensing the old hunger. Crisis reignited subtly. A documentary crew approached. Queer fitness trailblazers. Cameras hungry for their narrative. Elias dove in. Lights flattering his renewed vigor. Jameson supportive, yet wary of exposure's glare. Filming days stretched. Elias late. Charm dialed for lenses. Jameson alone with drafts unfinished. One night. Post-wrap. Elias stumbled and buzzed. Not drunk, but edges blurred by craft beers with the director. A charismatic filmmaker named Riley. Wait. No. Ronan. Sharp-jawed with a Portland accent. Jameson smelled it. Tension coiling. Celebrating? He asked. Tone even. Elias waved it off, pulling him to bed. Just networking. For us. Sex followed. Passionate, but scripted. Jameson's mind snagging on Elias' thread. Days later, a crew member texted Jameson innocently. Elias killed it today. Ronan's got big plans. Curiosity led to a bar tab check. Elias's card. Drinks for two. Late hour. Confrontation simmered over brunch at Le Panier. Croissants crumbling like trust. Who's Ronan? Jameson asked direct. Elias paled, then spilled. Mentorship pitch. Drinks to seal. Nothing more. But the omission stung. Echo of land and shadows. You hide to protect? It wounds deeper. Elias swore fidelity. But doubt's seed sprouted. Jameson pulled back. Reading's his refuge. Crowd's applause hollow. Elias overcompensated. Flowers from Pike Place. Surprise tickets to a Huskies game, but the fracture widened. Intimacy mechanical. Hearts guarded. Summer's zenith scorched revelations. At a film fest screening, teaser clip aired. Elias on camera. Charismatic. Ronan off-screen, laughing intimate. Post-panel. Jameson cornered Ronan. What's the angle? Ronan smiles slick. Elias is star quality. Potential collab. Personal and pro. The word personal ignited. Home that night. Evidence mounted. Text deleted, but notifications glimpsed. Late meetings. Elias denied. Voice cracking. It's business. Trust me. But Jameson, scarred wise, demanded space. Prove it. Or lose me. Betrayal confirmed in fragments. A mutual friend's slip. Photo from a rap party. Elias's arm around Ronan. Eyes lit with old fire. Heart shattering. Jameson confronted. Phone thrust forward. Elias's face crumpled. One kiss. Stupid. Drunk. Regret instant. The admission gutted. Not full affair. But breach seismic. Trust dam bursting. Rage and grief warred. Jameson fled to Spokane. Parents' home a reluctant harbor. Their awkward embrace balm insufficient. Days blurred in wheat fields. Writing furious. A tale of fractured compasses. Submitted blind. Elias's calls bombarded. Voicemails wrecked. I sabotaged us. Fixable? Please. Healing's chasm yawns solitary. Jameson sought counsel in therapy solo. Sessions in a downtown high-rise overlooking the Ferris wheel spin. Friends rallied. Theo's bar nights. Maria's care packages of cannoli and cards. He's broken. But so are we all. Worth a mend. Autumn winds howled introspection. Jameson returned to Seattle changed, boundaries steel. Heart cauterized. First meet was neutral, coffee at Storyville. Steam rising veils. Elias. Diminished, eyes hollow. Sobriety teetering, begged. Therapy. Amends. Anything. Love you too much to quit. Jameson listened. Then spoke measured. Love's action. Not plea. Earn it. Term set. No contact 3 months. Elias's work on self, AA meetings. Sponsor in Tacoma. Gym handover temporary to a trusted assistant. Winter isolated them parallel paths. Jameson thrived in void. Book 2 released to acclaim. Tour to Chicago's windy queer scenes. Stories landing in the New Yorker. Emptiness ached. Hookups tempted at lit parties. A poet's touch fleeting, but fidelity to self prevailed. Growth in solitude's forge. Elias transformed visibly. Updates via Maria. Weight loss to worry. But clarity gained. Program expanded to include mental health pods. His strictness softened to empathy. A letter arrived Spring's Eve. Pages thick, rock bottom twice taught. I'm addictive to chaos. Sober now in all body, soul. If chance, I'm here. Jameson weighed it under cherry petals. Park bench witness. Me too. Waterfront walk. Goals scavenging. Elias's stride humble. Conversation flowed cautious. Progress shared. Pains aired. I chose escape over us, Elias admitted. Cowardice. Forgiveness isn't erasure, Jameson replied. It's choice to build anew. They parted friends tentative. Coffees evolving to lunches. Boundaries blurring slow. Summer's warmth coaxed reconnection. A gym open house, Elias's initiative. Free classes for survivors, Drew Jameson. Volunteering incognito at first. Then open. Their eyes met across mats. Spark residual but tempered. Post-event. Beers at a brew pub. Laughter tentative. Then free. Stories of tours. Program wins. Vulnerabilities bridged. Intimacy reignited gradual. A hand on knee during a Mariners game. Stadium lights forgiving. First kiss post-betrayal at Discovery Park. Sunset gilding waves. Elias's lips tentative. Jameson's granting. Slow, he whispered. Earn every step. Fall deep in commitment. Joint therapy resumed. Couch confessions peeling layers. Elias's attachment wounds from father's ghost. Jameson's fear of abandonment rooted in Spokane's silences. Sex returned reverent. Exploratory nights in the loft. Bodies relearning maps. Elias's submission a gift. Jameson's dominance gentle guide. Winter 2028 tested resilience. Holiday merge. Spokane for Jameson's kin. Awkward but endured. Parents thawing over pie. Elias's charm disarming. Tacoma reciprocated. Aunts embracing Jameson as son. New Year's at the locks. Fireworks over water. Elias's vow. No more runs. Anchor here. Spring 2029 flowered full. Jameson's third book. On redemption's grind. Dedicated ambiguously. Elias's pride launch night fierce. Gym milestone. 5 years. Gala with speeches. Elias crediting Jameson. My mirror. My motivator. Yet humanity whispered. No end to growth. Conflicts small but surmounted. Elias's workaholic slips checked gently. Jameson's travel strains bridged with calls. Their love, forged in Seattle's forge of rain and resolve, stood testament, not perfection, but persistence, Caring's quiet revolution in after-hours hearts. The wheel turned. 2029's summer sun baking Seattle's asphalt into mirages of doubt, even as their bond seemed tempered unbreakable. Jameson's tour extended, stops in New York's humid literary hives. Boston's brick-lined cafes, Elias holding fort. Tech's a lifeline of domestic snapshots. Gym kids ace their first 5K. Miss your cheer. Returns were reunions fervent. Airport kisses devolving to cab rides home. Hands impatient under clothes. But distance bred fissures unseen. Elias. Solo in a loft. Fielded overtures, a client. Mid-40s executive named Bryce. Sessions bleeding into post-work drinks. Networking, Elias justified internally. Flirtation simmered harmless at first, compliments on form. Laughs over IPAs, but loneliness amplified. Jameson's absence avoid Bryce, filled with easy charm. Jameson sensed shift upon return, Elias's hugs tighter, but eyes evasive. Everything good? He'd ask, unpacking books autographed to fans. Pizza, Elias Leet. Gilda Stone and Gut. The betrayal's echo-haunted. His own past sends a mirror to potential fall. Autumn's equinox brought confrontation veiled. At a reading in Elliott Bay, Jameson shone. Crowd wrapped to his tale of fractured trusts mended. Elias attended, flowers in hand, but post-signing. A text buzzed, Bryce, great seeing you last week. Round 2, Elias silenced it, but Jameson glimpsed, heart stuttering. Home, air thick. Jameson pressed, who's Bryce? Elias deflected, then cracked, client. Drinks once. Nothing, but the nothing loomed. Jameson's trust, hard won, fracturing anew. You swore transparency. This feels like rerun. Argument ignited. Voices rising over cooling stir-fry. I'm not cheating, Elias roared. But hiding? That's the wound. Jameson slept on couch. Dreams turbulent as the sound and storm. Healing's cycle spun weary. Space demanded again. Jameson to Theos. Elias to AA doubles. Therapy unearthed roots. Elias's pattern of thrill-seeking in voids. Jameson's hypervigilance from cumulative scars. We choose patterns or break them, counselor urged. Winter's solstice forced reckoning. Elias, bottoming out in isolation, reached out raw, a bonfire at Golden Gardens. Waves lapping judgment-free. Bryce was temptation's whisper. Shut it down. Blocked him. But the why, my fear of your light outshining, leaving me dim. Jameson, bundled against chill, heard truth's ring. My light dims without you. But patterns break together. Embrace followed. Firelit, leading to loft, return, tentative, nights of talk over tea. Bodies reconnecting slow. Trust's thread rewoven. Spring 2030 green forgiveness. Joint vow, monthly void checks, preemptive shares. No assumptions. Gym collab birthed. Jameson's writing workshops for youth. Stories scripted into fitness metaphors. Elias facilitating. Their synergy electric. Summer's heat tested anew. A festival invite for both. Elias keynoting a wellness con in LA. Jameson paneling lit track. Shared hotel, but schedules clashed. Evenings solo. Temptation prowled. A con attendee's flirt with Elias. Rebuffed swift. Jameson's admirer at a signing. Conversation polite, but pulse quick. Transparency triumphed. Text immediate. Flirt approached. Told taken. Reassurance flowed. Trust fortified. Con climax. Joint session on love's endurance. Audience enwrapped. Their glance is story enough. Fall harvested bounty. Jameson's bestseller status secured agent deals. Elias's program franchised to Portland. Tacoma outposts. Life balanced. Travels synced. Loft expanded with an office nook for writing. Gym basement converted to home dojo. Winter's hush brought vulnerability's gift. Elias's sobriety milestone. 5 years, celebrated quiet. Dinner at the harborside spot of their first date. Then home to a playlist of their years. Bodies swaying slow. Love-making pinnacle. Elias vulnerable. Tears mingling as Jameson entered him. Pace dictated by breath synced. Forever's choice, Elias gasped. Release a sacrament. 2031 dawned expansive. They adopted a rescue pup, a lab, mix named Hudson. After the river, Jameson romanticized from tours. Walks along the trail, bonding trio. Elias's laughter free as the dog zoom eyes. Family merged deeper. Spokane Thanksgiving with parents first, we love him too. Tacoma Christmas with nieces clambering uncles. Yet humanity's nuance, no arc flawless. A 2032 spring storm, literal, winds toppling trees, mirrored minor quake. Elias's overcommitment straining. Jameson resentful of divided attention. Fight brief. Resolved in rain-soaked makeup on the deck. Wet clothes shed. Passion storm fiercer. Summer's road trip epic. Cross-country. Route 66 reversed. Detours to Grand Canyon sunrises. Nashville honky-donks where Elias two-step clumsy. Jameson leading. Motel nights raw. Bodies marked by miles. Love's geography mapped in bites and bruises. Fall's reflection. Joint memoir pitched. After hours, a love in lifts, blending their voices. Authenticity raw. Publisher bites swift. Writing sessions cathartic. Arguments over edits, forging sharper prose. Winter 2032, closed circle. At the locks. Anniversary eve. Elias knelt proper, rings simple, compass etch band. Will you, Jameson? Tears souther than sea. Yes, breathless. Wedding small, beach at Golden Gardens. Friends witnesses. Vows exchanged to gull cries. Life post-vow, amplified ordinary. Jim empire humble. Books perennial. Hudson graying wise. Conflicts came. Elias's midlife itch for adventure. Jameson's tenure offer tempting relocation, but dialogues dissolve them. Choices affirming. Elder years glimpsed, 2040s. Silver threading hair. Jim adapted for aging bodies. Stories read to grandnieces. Love's evolution, less fire. More ember, hands held in rockers on the deck. Sunsets over the sound. Karen's quiet constancy. In Seattle's eternal rain. Their tale endured. Strict coach and writer. After hours to always. Proof that vulnerability's lift bears heaviest weights. Humanity in every rep. Decades distilled to essence. Yet the heart's narrative never truly ends, only folds into legacy's quiet chapters. By 2050, Seattle had evolved. Electric ferries silent across the bay. Jim a community anchor with solar panels glinting. Jameson's oeuvre stacked in libraries from Spokane to the Sound. Elias, 65, moved with the deliberate grace of earned aches. Knee from old injury protesting rainy days. But his eyes, those storm-dark anchors, still held sunrises for Jameson. Now 63, hair a silver fox's mane. Stories etched in laugh lines. Their loft, expanded over years. Hummed with history, Hudson long buried under the backyard apple tree. Replaced by a calico cat named Compass. Purring judgments from windowsills. Morning's ritual, coffee brewed strong. Elias spotting Jameson's yoga, gentle now. More breath than bend, teasing. Form still killer. Writer man, Jameson retorts with a kiss. Lingering. The world's rush held at bay. Conflicts softened with age. But persisted human. Elias's restlessness for travel. Jameson's rootedness in book signings. Debates over RV versus flights dissolving in compromise. Trains to Portland. Wine tastings where hands link under tables. Health scares punctuated. Elias's heart stutter mid-2040s. Jameson bedside vigil. Vowing not without fight. Recovery bonded deeper. Walks prescribed along the trail. Conversations meandering like the Duwamish. Grandparenting surrogate bloomed late. Maria's daughter. now grown, her twins tumbling into their lives. Weekends at the cabin in Snoqualmie, fishing poles mended. Stories spun of Uncle's wild youths. Did Grandpa Elias really bench press a couch? They giggled. Elias demonstrating feeble but fierce. Jameson chronicling in bedtime tales. Betrayal's ghosts rarefied to lessons. Annual check-ins. Void audits evolved to gratitude journals. Pages filled with your laugh in dawn light and hands that held through storms. Intimacy shifted, less urgent, more profound, slow explorations by candle. Bodies known as sacred texts. Climaxes quiet gasps of connection. Society shifted too. Queer normalcy woven into Seattle's fabric. Their story option for series, Elias Gruff consultant. Jameson script doctor. Laughs over they soften me too much. Legacy rippled. Scholarships in their name for youth programs. Gym walls murals of lifted lives. One autumn 2060. Leaves gold as their rings. Crisis whispered final. Elias's diagnosis, slow. Pancreatic shadow, landed soft as falling foliage. Jameson met it unflinching. Research marathons. Trials navigated hand in clasp. We've lifted heavier, he said. Elias nodding. After hours forever. Months blurred tender. Treatments endured. Remissions chased. Nights of morphine-laced murmurs. Jameson's stories read aloud. New ones penned bedside. Epics of enduring hearts. Elias weakened, but spirit unbowed. Cared too fierce to fade quiet. Winter's solstice. Full moon silvering the sound. Elias slipped anchors, peaceful. Jameson's hand in his. Last words, love's the ultimate rep. Grief tsunami. Jameson adrift. Empty loft echoing. Gym session spectator now. Writing stalled in sorrow's ink. Healing's horizon vast. Solitary. Friends enveloped. Theo's barbecues. Maria's embraces, but void vast. Jameson wandered locks. Feeding fish Elias's habit. Tears salting water. Spring coaxed return. Pen to page. Memoir unfinished. His way of caring. Published to quiet acclaim. Royalties funding scholarships. Years folded. 70s brought honors. Key to city. Lit lifetime award, but solitude chosen. Love's light post Elias. Occasional flirts at readings, but heart pledged eternal. 80s saw frailty. Assisted living overlooking the bay. Stories dictated to aides. Visitors' grandkids regaling with Grandpa Jameson's tales. Final chapter gentle, 2085. Cherry blossoms defiant. Jameson 88. Breath shallowing. Alone but not. Elias's ring thumb worn. Compass tattoo faded but felt. Last breath sunset gilded. Smile whispering after hours await.